It's Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mains and Duts. I'm your host, Mains, and my colleague in a danger zone in Rainford, a man who would never complain about catching babies on national news. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
The presence of mind to take a shot at put it this way, that fella was whatever he was going to do that day, he was going to have a pop at Nelson Aguilar. It just so happened he was performing a heroic act.
The best bit about it, for those who haven't seen it, please find it. It's a guy who's interviewed on the Philadelphia News for catching babies out of a burning building. And while not really bigging himself up, just saying, yeah, that's something that happened, he said, at least it was me catching the babies, not Nelson Aguilar. But not only does he say it, he's being interviewed by the person and he's not looking at the camera. When he goes to slag off Nelson Aguilar, he turns to the camera and, like, you know what I mean, Philadelphia.
Yeah, it was like a Fleabag-esque breaking of the fourth wall by the fella. It was, he's in the real world, but then just a quick look.
What I like about it is, as someone said, in our world, Neil, where we talk a lot about fantasy, got 22 points last week. You know what I mean? No deal with Nelson Aguilar. In real life, you're like, why do you not catch every single ball, please?
Yeah, in real life, do us a favour. If you're going to secure the ball, go to the ground with it. Yeah. Don't secure it and then put it on the ground. The Eagles game, which obviously we'll just touch on quickly. I've never seen one team give another team the game so many times, but the other team say, "No, we're good."
It was hot potato-esque, Neil. There's certain teams that you should, like every team's got a New England Patriots problem. Every team's, lots of teams struggle with certain teams. The Philadelphia Eagles have a Detroit Lions problem. What is that about?
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I believe the last time the Eagles beat the Lions, they were wearing the hideous yellow and sky blue throwbacks in 2007.
You play the Detroit Lions an awful lot, right? Just not obviously not NFC East a lot, but a lot. Them winning that game meant that was the third time they had won on the run against the Eagles. The last time that had happened was the 1930s.
It's as someone pointed out, it's Liverpool Wimbledon.
Yeah, it's not good.
I would back the Philadelphia Eagles at the moment, even with a depleted team, against any number of NFL teams. But show me the Detroit Lions or going to Atlanta and give it up.
Not good places. So, Neil, that's enough on the Eagles for a change. As we know, it's an Eagles show. What we're going to do is we're going to plug into the mains 3 stories that I think are what we want to talk about. Then Neil's going to focus on individual players for his fancy darling and fancy loser. And then we're going to talk about our daily DraftKings fancy teams of the week, where we are doing really well. If you don't believe us, go back in time. I know some people, we won't name names, attack you for picking like one guy wrong, Neil. But like, look at the teams and we're like nailing it every single week. But we're not going to call anybody out. We're just going to say, we're allowed to make the odd mistake. Listen to all the fantasy shows and tell me they get it 100%.
Yeah, Jesus wept, man. Only one person in the history of the world has been perfect, and they crucified him. So, I don't mind making the odd mistake here and there. Footnote, fictional character.
Yeah, footnote, not getting involved in that conversation.
Yeah.
Neil, let's do this straight away and let us plug into the mains. Neil, last week we looked at undefeated teams and said which ones we were most happy with. And this week we're going to look at which 0-3 teams we are most worried about. So, the 0-3 teams are Jets, Dolphins, Bengals, Steelers, Broncos, and Washington semi-professional football team.
Semi?
Amateur? I don't know. We'll get onto them. Can we leave my rant momentarily? We could also highlight that the Cardinals haven't won, but they did tie with Eagles, Kryptonite, Detroit Lions. So, Neil, of those teams, which one are you most worried about not winning a game?
See, we know Miami are deliberately trying not to win. I suspect the Jets are falling into that. I think they probably hope to win some games, but they're not going to.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, I don't know what your boys are doing because it sure as hell isn't good to watch. I think they are, let's be honest, cellar dwellers. I don't think anyone expected much from those three teams. I think I'm surprised by how bad Denver have been, and obviously no one expected the Steelers to be 0-3.
So can any of these teams win 7 games? I just look at the teams and think okay, the Jets are snake bitten, but also make terrible decisions, i.e., giving Adam Gase a job. He's not a head coach, and I think I was listening to Bill Simmons. He was talking to Cousin Sal, and he described Adam Gase quite rightly as a dick. Right now, Bill Belichick. But what he said was, Bill Belichick's a dick, but he also is good at his job. If you're going to be a dick, don't be bad at your job, and he's bad at his job. The Dolphins are deliberately trying to lose, i.e., from a front office point of view. The players aren't deliberately trying to lose. Absolutely not. Players are given 100%, but they lack talent at a basic level. So that's not their problem. Bengals, I don't think are very good. And as I highlighted, I think week 14 they played the Dolphins in what could be the classic bowl thing. They have been competitive. Or
they were in.
Competitive in spurts.
But they were in the game against the Bills, to the end.
But I think they're in the game against the Bills because of the way the Bills play. The Bills dominated the game, but can't score loads of points. So they've dominated, and it's 16-0.
Yeah,
so that's the issue. Steelers is injuries, karma, and poor management. Or not poor management. I don't think that's fair. That's not fair. But they drafted a load of. At the moment, the defense is riddled with first-round draft picks, and they don't win games. And the offense has got a load of players who we're told are talented who aren't doing anything. So there's some. Eventually, we're gonna have to say, Bill O'Brien. No offense, but guy who we should be all looking at is not you anymore. Mike, Mr. Tomlin, and the rest of his crew. What are you guys doing there in Pittsburgh? What kind of ship are you sailing?
One that leaks from the top. The problem is, as you say, I mean, obviously they knew they weren't going to have Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, obviously, but James Conner showed enough last year to think that they could lean on him a bit more than they did. Juju Smith-Schuster, we all expected to push on. James Conner, for me, you're looking at, he's not healthy. There's something there. They always say, the strong run match, you can't take him down with an arm tackle. James Conner, I'm pretty certain you can. So I just wonder and worry about his full health. It's as I say, I mean, there was just, I think when you talk about Adam Gase, being a dick and not being good at his job, there's an old saying, that if you're incompetent, you have to be honest, and if you're crooked, you have to be clever. So I think the problem is that Adam Gase is incompetent and is dishonest as well. So I just don't. If you are, incompetent but honest, people will flock to your side and support you. Whereas because I think he's a dick, and people talk about the big personalities in New York. No, arseholes. So let's call them for what they are. Greg Williams is an arsehole. Adam Gase is a professional arsehole, and probably could teach arsehole at night school class. I just think that's a toxic situation that obviously has not been helped by the situations. The Dolphins they kept Dallas close for 2 quarters of football, and that was their bolt shot. By the way, did you see, in the, not the same stadium, but in the same part of the world, Dak Prescott channeling his inner McNabb, i.e. holding the ball for 14 seconds, only instead of McNabb finding a man downfield, just going, yeah, mate.
He found someone in the Miami uniform, not his best move. I think the two teams we haven't really discussed, Denver, we didn't think they'd be very good. We didn't think they'd be this bad.
How could they be this bad on defense? I don't understand.
Well, I'm gonna let you in on a secret, right? So Vic Fangio is really good at defense. Yeah, and he is calling the defensive plays. Yeah, we agree on that. Vic Fangio has never, ever in his defensive coordinator career been on the sideline.
No.
He's been up in the booth. You can't be a head coach up in the booth, but you've signed him to be a defensive coordinator, and he needs to be in the booth. You've also given a load of money to Joe Flacco, which, let's be honest, everybody said was a bad idea, and it's going badly. And also, you know, the quarterback you drafted, another one. Your head coach, who's going to be is a defensive coach anyway, so he's not going to have much leeway with rookie quarterbacks. Basically said he was like a scattergun, just don't know where it's going kind of player. Not good news.
Do you know how we knew, though? Do you know how we knew that the Joe Flacco move was going to be a bad one? Because it was a quarterback move made by John Elway.
Well, yeah, exactly right. As for my team, it's not a franchise anymore. I've done an article for Touchdown this week on the Touchdown 3. We'll come on to it. I picked the Giants, who stink, to beat Washington, who stink worse. There's a great article in the Washington Post around the 21 years of Daniel Snyder. It's abysmal. The stadium's abysmal. It's not in Washington. No one wants to go. And the issue I've got is they don't care. And what I mean by that is for people in the UK, I liken Washington at the moment to Newcastle United. And what I mean by that is you have a franchise or a team in the Newcastle, I won't use franchise, who are run by someone who makes money. And that's his job, because that's what he's always had in his head. And he's always wanted to make money. So what's the point in changing things? Now, people will tell me that Daniel Snyder is a huge Washington fan, has been his whole life, and all he wants to do is let Washington win. That can't be true. It can't be true, because since he took over, they've never won more than 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. In 21 years, they've never won more than 10 games. In a league designed to facilitate everybody being good and bad in a circle, they've never been good. He employs Bruce Allen, who we know is not a talent evaluator. We know that. And allows him to be a talent evaluator. They fire consistently media people, PR, all that, because they don't like what they're saying, because they're trying to get people through the door. They're playing Chicago. It's not exactly down the road. And it's 70% Chicago fans. And
That's a conservative estimate.
And it's the same every single game. Jay Gruden is okay. I think he's a decent to good offensive coordinator. And somehow they fire people like Marty Schottenheimer and Mike Shanahan after like half an hour. And Jay Gruden gets 5 years. Like, I don't even know if this is feasibly possible. Well, it is, because he's a yes man and he won't pull up any trees. Do you know, if Daniel Snyder wants to keep the team, that's fine, right? Everybody below Daniel Snyder, with the exception of Jonathan Allen, Dane, Scary Terry, and Dwayne Haskins, can go. Every single person in the franchise can go, apart from those 4 lads, because I'm not interested in any of the others. I'm just not. And the concept of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So what you need to do is blow it up properly. Like, not half measures. Head coach has got to go. GM's got to go. Scouts have got to go. Everybody has got to go. And until that happens, they don't get my time even watching on the TV. I'll just watch Red Zone and watch Daniel Jones run in for another 2 scores. That's all, you know what I mean? Like,
do you remember last week that I said I wasn't going to participate in the Danny Dimes nickname?
Yeah.
Scary Terry is shit.
No, it is, but I
his
can't.
His name is F1 McLaurin.
But I can't say McLaurin very well, so it came into my head. But yeah, they're a joke, and they will continue to be a joke. And you know, there we go. I literally cannot remember the last time I thought they were going to be good.
The scary thing is that, but remember, they were 6-2 last season.
Yeah, I know. But I didn't think they were good then.
And have lost 10 of the next 11.
Yeah, I know. Let's move on to the next thing, Dutton. Being desperate for a quarterback usually turns out really badly.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds ridiculous, but it's definitely bad when you're then also lucky at the same time. And what I mean by that is, the Jacksonville Jaguars were a quarterback away, for 3 years, maybe? We say that? Maybe 2 years, and then they were bad last year. 2 years, and then they were bad last year. But they still got a lot of the talent they had. So they throw a lot of money at Nick Foles, who, we're all friends here. We love Nick Foles, playoff Nick Foles.
Mm.
Apart from playoff Nick Foles has been good in the regular season like once.
Well, he's been.
I'm not. Yeah, he's been okay.
He's been outstanding once.
Yeah,
he's been adequate twice.
Yeah, and he's been in the league 10 years.
2012 he came in.
Yeah, so okay, 7 years. And now he's injured, and you've stumbled upon Gardner Flint Minshew II, who looks really good. Now, I'm not saying he's the next coming of whoever. However, he looks good and competent, and the team seems to rally around him and they win games, which is something they haven't had a quarterback possibly since Mark Brunell. The issue then becomes that you go, okay, young quarterback, don't have to pay him very much money. This is a winner. Apart from the fact you thought, I have to get a quarterback, and you pick Nick Foles, and his cap it next year on dead money is $22 million.
See, if you want to find a franchise quarterback, the thing you have to do is have Nick Foles on your roster, because the Eagles had him and then got Carson Wentz. The Rams had him and got Jared Goff. The Chiefs had him and then got Patrick Mahomes. So, all I'm saying, the one thing that those 3 picks have all got in common is that Big Dick Nick had been around the building, almost immediately beforehand. So the problem is we've spoke to in the past to intelligent people who know a lot more about the game than us, like Andrew Brandt and Greg Cosell, and we've asked the question. And Kirk Cousins is usually the person we've asked is he a franchise quarterback? And Greg's answer at the time was in relation to what. And then, so the question is, if you've got Kirk Cousins and you don't think he is a franchise quarterback, you say, we need another one. Andrew Brandt's answer would be, okay, now what?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's that fallacy of, we need to do something. This is something, therefore we must do it, which, as I say, can be translated down to, all dogs have 4 legs. My cat has 4 legs, therefore my cat is a dog. You need a quarterback. You see a quarterback, you think, we've got to get him, because until you need one, you don't have a quarterback problem. Even if your quarterback is only mediocre, if you've still got a mediocre quarterback, you don't have a blinding quarterback problem. It's only when you have a bad quarterback that you realise, okay, we've actually got a problem here. And that's what the Jaguars have had since, Blaine Gabbert, Blake Bortles. These people have been, prisoners They've basically imprisoned the entire rest of the offense and, by definition, the defense. Nick Foles was brought in to do a job. They designed the offense with Nick Foles in mind. There was lots of people had high hopes of D.D. Westbrook for the running game. And all of a sudden it's got to go because that's not the type of offense that Gardner Minshew is comfortable running. But one thing we can say about John DeFilippo is he has shown in the past that he can design an offense, or at least participate in designing an offense designed to suit the quarterback he has. So I don't think we don't need to worry about Gardner Minshew in the short term. Is he the person who, I don't know what he'd have to do this year for the Jags to say, when Nick Foles comes back, no, this is Gardner's gig. I don't know how good he'd have to be. I know how bad he'd have to be. But I don't know when does it become a Drew Bledsoe situation. I don't know.
That division is weird at best, right? I still think after three weeks that the Colts are the best team. I don't. In terms of roster, absolutely. Now, is Jacoby Brissett better than Deshaun Watson? No, he's not. So therefore, I'm not saying that the Texans can't win. I'm just saying that I think as a roster, they're the best. I listened to Ryan Russillo, and he interviews Chris Long, former Eagles and still Eagles fan. And they were talking about the Colts who he loves. Not as much as the Eagles, but loves, and was saying that Quentin Nelson has the largest noggin he's ever seen in his entire life, and it nearly killed him when he played against him. But anyway, I think they've got the best roster. The Texans have the best quarterback, but I'm always interested by Jacksonville because they're always in them division games. Them division games very rarely get away from someone in the South. They're always dead close. So I'm interested. It's good. The
classic example, and this is, Matt Kelly always goes on about how a good coach can only help you so much, where a bad coach can really torpedo you. The best quarterback in this division is Deshaun Watson. The best coach in this division is Frank Reich.
I don't even think that's close.
It's not close. So look at the good Frank Reich is doing with his roster and compare that to the damage that Bill O'Brien is doing with his.
Yeah, true. Final plugged into the mains before we get into fantasy. Every year we joke about the Dolphins winning the off season, and they didn't this year. They weren't even close. One team won the off season by a million miles, and that team, were going to the AFC title game and were going to the Super Bowl. That Browns hype was cool while it lasted, wasn't it?
It was a good 2 weeks, yeah.
They were horrific on Sunday night against the Rams, because I'll be honest, I didn't think the Rams were very much better, with the exception of Aaron Donald.
Have the Rams got out of second gear once this season?
Not that I've seen. I think they haven't necessarily had to, and
it just seems they're just quietly
winning games, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah, because we talked about the Super Bowl hangover. Well, the best way to avoid a hangover is don't do anything drastic the next day, and they just come on, taking care of business, doing enough, and no one seems to be talking about the fact that Todd Gurley looks like me in the backfield. And they're just checking along. The one play that I saw, and this isn't the draw play on 4th and 9. It's the almost right back against their own end zone, a 3rd and 9, and they had 2 wide receivers running the same route, streaking 20 yards down the field. No, you need 9 yards to get away from your end zone.
They have. I know you hate this guy, right? And I understand why you hate this guy. But this team keeps on wanting to keep the ball in Baker Mayfield's hands too long, right? I think he's holding it the longest in the NFL. It's on average 4 seconds. That's not good.
No.
You've got a dude who can catch a 3-yard ball every single time. And he's running go routes. What are you doing?
Yeah.
That offensive line is awful. So we can all, look at shiny things. They're cool. we all love wide receivers and cool running backs and quarterbacks and whatever. But if someone doesn't protect them, it's a waste of time. Other issue is every time Baker Mayfield feels pressure, he runs to the right every single time. So, like that last series in the red zone, like I'll make Charlie laugh because I say this all the time. Like that 4-play series should get multiple people fired. Like multiple people should be sacked for how they dealt with those 4. Like the 4th and 9 draw, you're trying to outthink yourself and it's cute, whatever, and Twitter blows up. Fine, I understand that. Take that one in the testes. Fine. Those 4 plays were terrible. You didn't run it once. You didn't even look to run it once. And what are you trying to do? You didn't even look like making one of them plays. Just never look like it. So if you can't scheme in a we've got to score a touchdown with 10 yards and 4 plays left. If that isn't like in the front page of your playbook, bye. Here's the door. Here's your P60. Off you go. See you later.
Their offensive line is terrible. We know this. But do you know what a good way of kickstarting your offensive line, trying to get into some kind of rhythm? Run the ball. Now, running backs don't matter. We all know this, from my opinion. But if your passing game is struggling and you've got Nick Chubb, run the damn ball.
Yeah, my dynasty team says the same, doesn't
it? As soon as you take away the threat that you're going to run the ball, well, you're playing with 10 men on offense. Now, even if it's just, he doesn't have to rip off 15 yards every time, but get to, your goal when you're struggling on offense. The Eagles, you can listen in as well here. Get to 3rd and 2. That's all you need to do. Get to 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4 down to 1. Get there, because your playbook is still open. But if you get into 3rd and 10, you're playing with 10 men on offense. Correct. If you're not going to run the ball.
I give you the schedule for the next few weeks. At the Ravens, at the 49ers, play the Seahawks, at the Patriots.
But it gets easier after that.
Yeah, but you've got to get there. You're gonna be like 1-5, 1-6. Like, okay, great. You're gonna win 9 games on the run. No, you are not.
This is the problem, though. They went straight from struggling to Super Bowl contenders without the middling seasons in between.
Absolutely.
Maybe this is the middling season they should have had all along, but it'll be perceived as a failure because everyone thought they were going to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Neil, that's enough plugged into the mains. Let's go fancy heavy now, and let's first of all find out who you love this week. Here we are, Fancy Darling segment.
Hello, darling.
My Fancy Darling is someone to be honest, he made quite a bit of a flash on his NFL debut in 2018, but I thought it was a flash in the pan, so I wasn't really interested. But he got injured, so I was proved right in the end. It's Will Dissly of the Seattle Seahawks. And if you actually look, so far this season, he's played 3 games. He's done very well in them. If you look across tight ends, his ranks are all very, very good. He's top 10 in receptions. He's he's 11 in receiving yards. He's 1st in touchdowns. He's 10 in air yards. And he is 1st in fantasy points over expectation per game. I say he's played this season. He has played 3 games, and he has already scored 3 touchdowns. So that's very good. He scored 5 touchdowns in his 7 NFL games.
Do you want to play a game, Neil? So I'm going to be honest now. I've got Will Dissly as my tight end in the DraftKings. I assume you have as well. He's played 5 games, full games, where he hasn't had an injury. Numbers are 3-105-1, 3-42-1, 1-40, 5-50-2, and 6-61-1.
And the reason those figures look and sound great, but I'm just going to read you these figures as well that make it even better.
Go for it.
27.6, 34.7, 25.5. They are the PPR points allowed to tight ends by the Arizona Cardinals so far this season.
Ouchie.
So, literally knife through butter, can't stop tight ends. Tight ends, this is it. For my streaming article for Rotoviz, I'm just following who's playing the Cardinals. Because I have to, because tight ends are wasteland out there, so I have to attack the Cardinals.
Exactly right.
Well, it's all going to come up Disley this week.
That's good, but there is bad out there, believe you me, and most of them are on my fancy rosters. But let's find out if Neil picks one this week in his fancy loser.
There is a problem with Sony Michel in that he just does not look very good. That is, a bit of a problem, considering he was supposed to be a workhorse and he was going to be more involved in the passing game, and he was going to do this and do that and be wonderful. Through 3 games, he has rushed 45 times for 110 yards at 2.4 yards per carry. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns, which has saved him, his owners. Maybe me, a bit of blushes occasionally, but this grand involvement in the passing game, he's had 1 target. And who've they played in these 3 games? Well, they've played the Steelers, who they blew out. They've played the Dolphins, who they blew out, and they played the Jets, who they blew out. So you can't say game script has been against them. They're playing the Bills now. The Bills are, they're quite solid defense, so it's not going to be. I think it's going to be a closer game than that has been in the previous 3 games. If you look as well, the Bills this season, they've allowed 3.4 yards per carry to the New York Jets in week 1, 3.7 yards per carry to the Cincinnati Bengals last week, and they did allow 5.9 yards in week 2. They were playing Saquon Barkley. I think we'll allow them that. So I just think with no passing game, and struggling to break off big plays and not create yards on his own, Sony Michel is a player who, if you can sit him down this week, I really would.
So, imagine having a problem on the Patriots. I'm sure they're all, Patriots Reddit is going absolutely insane. While they're 3-0 and have scored 8 billion points, and
must be killing them.
The only points they've conceded is a muffed punt and a pick 6 from their backup quarterback.
Do you know the best thing is, though, that last week was a rout? One of the top scoring fantasy defences in week 3 was the New York Jets because the Patriots gave them 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, true. Right, Neil, let's get on to Daily Fancy and give you our teams of the week.
Mains and Duds. Daily Fantasy Team of the Week.
Show me the money.
Neil, who's your quarterback?
My quarterback is Daniel Jones of the New York Giants, 5,300, because he's playing Washington, and you stink.
Yeah. If you're expecting me to say anything, I said it all. Please rewind and listen to that piece again.
Yeah.
My quarterback this week is Jacoby Brissett. He's playing the Oakland Raiders. Neil, are you aware of a concept called the Ewing theory?
No.
Okay. This is a theory hashed by Bill Simmons and his friend David Carrilli. It explains the reason why teams inexplicably become better after their star player leaves the team for a reason, i.e. a trade or an injury. 2 elements must be present for the situation to be explained by the Ewing theory. The team has a star player who receives a lot of attention but never wins anything. The star player leaves the team and everybody writes them off. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the 2019 Indianapolis Colts. Jacoby Brissett's really good. He's not as good as Andrew Luck. He's not. But he's absolutely good enough in a Frank Reich offense to get them 25 to 30 points every week and make them a 10-win team. They're playing the Oakland Raiders, who absolutely stink. And yet I think he completed first 16 last week, was it?
Yeah, I was just going to say he was 16 of 16 to start, and and they weren't fluky plays. He was making some really, really good throws, and he's been efficient. He's been what we wanted. They're not asking him to throw 50 times a game. He does have 2 passing touchdowns in each of his last 3 games as well, so that's always going to be helpful. The Raiders, as you say, bless them. No,
not for me. Neil, who's your running back 1?
My running back 1 is Leonard Fournette. Now, Leonard Fournette obviously had the embarrassing, landmark last week. He had 66 yards rushing with a long of 69 yards. Nice. That's a very special achievement to get to that. But if we look around that, the efficiency isn't there at the moment, but the opportunity is. He's one of only 4 running backs who was handling 75% or more of the backfield carries. And he's also commanding 21% of the targets in the passing game. This is a true workhorse back. They're playing Denver Broncos. They got steamrolled last week on the ground by Jamal Williams and Aaron Jones, and Denver just don't look very good. So Leonard Fournette, 6,000. DraftKings, PPR, can't argue with
it. No, you can't. My running back one is Austin Eckler. If we're going to play a game, Neil, has there been a worse holdout in the history of the NFL than Melvin Gordon's? Who, weirdly enough, has said he might be coming back sooner than expected. Is that because if you don't, you may not have a job?
Yeah, he was hate, Austin Eckler. I see where we're going here. I like Eckler. He's been fantastic. The most carries he's had in the game so far, however, have only been 12. But he does have 6 or more receptions in each of his last 3 games and has a rushing touchdown in his last 2 road games. And they are playing, of course, the expansion Miami Dolphins.
I think he is the perfect Phil Rivers running back, right? Phil Rivers doesn't want to pass it back 30 times, but he does want a scat back who can catch it 6 or 7 times. It's what he's always wanted. And, the personification of the best one of them was LT2, right? But, he's had other ones in that ilk, and Austin Eckler fits that mould. He's going to get a lot of points because if Los Angeles do what they should do, get ahead fast, then he will run a lot. Or they'll be stupid and then, make it really interesting. The line is 16.5. And I've picked Miami because I just don't think the Chargers can be trusted.
No. There are a few. If you ask me which teams in the NFL could play the Miami Dolphins and absolutely blow them out, the Phil Rivers-led Los Angeles Chargers would not be high up on my list. They'd shoot themselves before they shot the Dolphins.
Exactly. Who's your running back 2, Neil?
Running back 2 is Kerryon Johnson. Now, he had 20 carries last week against the Eagles for a grand total of 36 yards. Yeah, not great. But not a great matchup, but they kept with him. Now, this week again, it's the Chiefs' defense, I don't think, on paper, is as good as the Eagles. The Eagles' defense is not playing well at the moment. The Chiefs did allow 3 rushing touchdowns to Mark Ingram. And I think Kerryon Johnson's got a bit more wiggle than Ingram at this stage. I'm not expecting 3 rushing touchdowns, but he is seeing a little bit of work through the air, and he is starting to pick up the volume when it comes to carries. So if Detroit want to beat the Chiefs, which, by the way, this is the first NFL game that Patrick Mahomes will ever have played in a dome.
Weird.
They cannot get into... They will be bringing a knife to a gunfight if they try and get into a shootout with the Chiefs. So they're going to want to keep it close and make the game shorter, and that means they may lean on Kerryon Johnson. So he's 5,400.
Okay. My running back 2 is Marlon Mack. You got a sneaky RB handcuff for the dump off for Brissett. And when Brissett's thrown his 2 touchdowns and they're 20-0 up in the second quarter, there'll be a lot of Mac action. Or Maction.
Maction. He has a rushing touchdown in his last 3 home games and has 130 plus rushing yards and a touchdown in his last 3 games against the AFC West.
Nice. And I like him. I think he's a really good player. Who's your wide receiver 1, Neil?
Wide receiver 1 is the leading receiver in the NFL, Mr. Keenan Allen, at 7,600. He has 8 or more receptions and at least 95 yards in all 3 games. He is on pace to shatter the single-season receiving yards and receptions record. I think he'll slow down a bit. But if you look at players who have had 25 receptions and 400 yards after 3 games, the lowest they have finished, this is in the last 20 years, the lowest they have finished in fantasy terms has been wide receiver 6. So Keenan Allen against the Dolphins, as I say, short little passes, long handoffs, as it were. Even in a game that could be a blowout, but probably won't be, because the Dolphins will keep it close, and that'll be the Chargers' fault. Keenan Allen's still going to get fed.
My wide receiver 1, 7,600, the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, and that is Keenan Allen. He's fun to watch. He always has been fun to watch, and I just hope that the thing that usually happens in Los Angeles doesn't happen in Los Angeles related to Keenan Allen. Wide receiver 2, Neil.
My wide receiver 2 is Brandon Cooks of the Los Angeles Rams. They're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, was last week a case of the Emperor's new clothes? We all thought this Tampa Bay defense was actually good when it actually turned out to be crap and had played two very, very ordinary offenses. I don't know. But Brandon Cooks has been, he's been getting better with each week of the season. The Rams, as I say, are not as explosive as last year, but they are moving the ball and they are utilising Brandon Cooks. So 6,200, I will take a piece of him here in what, probably is not going to be that high scoring a game.
No, true. My wide receiver 2, 5,900, is Kenny Golladay, Dutton's boy. Dutton thinks they might use Kerryon Johnson to keep it close. I don't know if Neil's watched the Kansas City Chiefs, but they don't do close. They just do massive blowouts and just throw it around like the dude's throwing a frickin' baseball. He's just outrageous. So because he's outrageous, Matt Stafford will have to throw it loads, and they are throwing it downfield more this year. And Kenny Golladay is the best option for that. Garbage time still counts in fantasy. So they may be 28-7 down, but when he gets that touchdown to make it 28-14, more points for me.
He does have 7 or more receptions and 100 yards in his last 2 games against AFC opponents, and does have 85.6 yards per game in his last 5 home games. I love the boy. He didn't have his best game against the Eagles, but as I say, the Lions were trying to hand the game to the Eagles, so it's a bit hard to feed your alpha running back, wide receiver, when you're actively trying to lose the game.
Absolutely. Who's your wide receiver 3, Neil?
Wide receiver 3 is Sterling Shepard, 5,800. You stink. If he goes up against Josh Norman, he will torch him. Last week, Daniel Jones averaged 13.3 adjusted yards per attempt when targeting Sterling Shepard against the Bucs. And the Bucs, as I say, their defense may not be as good as advertised, but it's a lot better than Washington's. So if that's who he's going to go to, there's no Saquon Barkley. It's going to have to come down to Daniel Jones's arm. I think Shepard's going to be one of the guys he looks for. To give you sort of a comparison, Mitchell Trubisky to Tyler Gabriel in 2019. Week 1, 2 of 5 for 24 yards and no touchdowns. Week 2, 1 of 2 for 11 yards and no touchdowns. That was against Denver. Week 3 versus Washington, 6 for 7 for 75 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2 for 3 for 36 yards and 2 touchdowns against Josh Norman in coverage. Shoot me now. He's a problem.
Hey, they're all a problem. Don't single him out. Don't single him out. There's hundreds of them. My wide receiver 3 is DK Metcalf because he's got awesome guns and that. And he's playing Arizona. And he does. There's something there. Yeah. There is a connection there. And at the end of the day, Patrick Peterson's still out, and all he's got to do is run those 2 routes down the left-hand side of the field and catch 3 balls for 100 yards. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that if you wanted a piece of this game, I wouldn't have gone with Metcalf myself. Mm-hmm. I'd have tried to stump up and get Lockett. Obviously, you've got Disley as well, which we're going to come to. I just think covering yourself thin. If to get a piece of this game, if you've got Metcalf and Disley, whereas Lockett and Disley might have been a bit more logical. But it's your team, it's your money.
It's my money, indeed. Neil, who's your tight end? We know it's Will Disley.
It's Will Disley. It's 3,600. I'd say 5 touchdowns in 7 career games, and the Cardinals are so bad against tight ends. It's almost bullying.
Yeah, I also have Will Disley. Who's your flex, Neil?
My flex is David Johnson. 6,800. Now, the reason he's the flex is because I didn't have enough faith to wedge him in as one of my running backs, but then when I saw how much money I had left over, I thought, yeah, okay, I can buy that. It's going to be a shootout because both these defenses are low-key crap. This is not the Legion of Boom.
I don't know if it's low-key.
Yeah, David Johnson is averaging one PPR point per opportunity. He's got 52.6 PPR points of 53 opportunities. That's carries and receptions. He's averaging 17.5 fantasy points per game. Importantly, he's averaging nearly 3 red zone touches per game, and he's commanding an 84.1% opportunity share. They give him the ball.
They do.
And, so we know that, this offense, it's still a little bit of a dinky-donkey air raid for my liking. This is why Christian Kirk is getting peppered with targets and doing very little with them. But David Johnson is involved, and he's virtually impossible to get off the field. So he's usually done quite well against the Seahawks, I think. So, yeah, I think this is a good spot for him. He's 6,800.
My flex is Mecole Hardman of the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Detroit Lions. I think every week you've got to have a Chief in your team. Now, last week I had the Chief in my team and it was Hardman, and he didn't get that many throws, but when he did, he caught one, it went to the house. And that's kind of how it works in Kansas City. So I'm using Mecole Hardman here again. He's 5,100.
As Denny Carter said on the Living the Stream podcast, Patrick Mahomes is basically employing the wide receivers don't matter. Plug in anyone. As you say, Mecole Hardman has 60-plus yards and a touchdown in each of his last 2 games. Not getting a lot of volume, but he is getting Hughes down the field. So, yeah.
Neil, who's your defense and special teams?
Defense is on Monday night. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Cincinnati Bengals, 3,200. This defense needs to step up. It needs to become a defensive team. The talent is there. The pedigree is there. And the Bengals are being generous to opposition teams. It's not Andy Dalton is not turning the ball over at a rapid rate, but we've seen that this Pittsburgh defense is opportunistic. You saw what they did against Jimmy Garoppolo. My God, seriously, it was embarrassing at one stage. It was like, you may as well punt. At least you're going to give them the ball, but at least you've got a bit better field position for how often they were giving the ball away. So 3,200. It's got to wait on Monday night. So if it comes down to it, and I need a big game from them, I'm probably not going to get it. But I just think of the 2 units, I have more faith in the Pittsburgh defense at home in prime time than an Andy Dalton Bengals offense.
Yep, true, Neil. My defense and special teams. Can I ask you a question, Neil? Do you know the record of the Chicago Bears?
They are 2-1.
Does that make them a team with a winning record?
I believe it does.
Okay, then I have picked the Chicago Bears to beat Kirk Coupons and the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings may run for a lot of yards, but there will be a forced fumble, there will be an interception, and there will be multiple sacks.
Do you know how often Dalvin Cook, as I say, has started his season with 3 games of 110 rushing yards in a row and a touchdown? Do you know how often the Bears allow 100-yard rushing running backs?
No.
2 in the last 4 seasons.
Now, this is literally, we usually joke about it, but this is literally the irresistible force meeting the immovable object, Neil. Yeah. Gorilla Monsoon would be very happy.
I would be ecstatic. No Vikings running back has eclipsed 100 yards against them since Adrian Peterson in 2013.
That was a while ago.
So the Bears, we've got some. Khalil Mack has got 8.5 sacks, 5 forced fumbles, and 2 pass defenses in 8 home games as a Bear. Kyle Fuller has an interception in his last 2 games. Akeem Nicks has 6.5 sacks in his last 6 games against the Vikings. Eddie Jackson has 5 passes defended, 3 interceptions, and 2 pick sixes in his last 4 games against the NFC North. This is this could be a classic Kirk Coupons meltdown game.
Absolutely. And let's quickly recap. Who's your quarterback?
Daniel Jones.
I've got Jacoby Brissett, running back 1.
Leonard Fournette.
Austin Eckler, running back 2.
Kerryon Johnson.
I've got Marlon Mack, wide receiver 1.
Keenan Allen.
I have Keenan Allen also. Who's your wide receiver 2?
Brandon Cooks.
I've got Babytron, wide receiver 3.
Sterling Shepard.
I've got DK Metcalf, tight end.
Will Dissly.
Same flex.
David Johnson.
Got Mecole Hardman, and defense and special teams.
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Neil, that's it for this week. Where can people catch you before we reconvene next week?
I say on the Twitter at @ndutton13. I've had my stats article for Number Fire that came out on Tuesday. I have my wide receiver usage report, which looks at the wide receivers who saw the most targets in week 3, and a few thoughts on some of the players in that list. There's a couple of surprising ones, so I mentioned those ones. And then also there's my tight end streaming article that's also for RotoViz, and Mr. Dissly does feature in it. But I should warn you, I don't say an awful lot about him because the numbers speak for themselves.
Absolutely, Neil. I am at Mainsy7. You will find me later this week with the touchdown 3. Another winning week last week, 2-1. So 5-3-1 overall. 3 games this week. Giants, Washington at the Giants. Also Colts playing the Raiders, and final game is what? Is Jags at Broncos. Combined, we are at waxing_lyrical. That's it for this week. Enjoy the action of week 4, and we will see you on the other side as these top guys are out.